Owners Off Script. Real owners, real conversations. Supported by Sales Geek.
Welcome to another edition of Owners Off Script. Today I'm going to be talking to Tim Bardgett. Now Tim has got an interesting background with a highly experienced sales leader in more than 2 decades of commercial growth in construction and business development. Now heads up Sales Geek in Cornwall. A geek, I love that. Where he works with local firms on a part-time sales director basis, trainer and mentor, and he helps them build stronger and more sustainable relationships and growth. Tim, welcome.
Sounds good. Yeah. How are you, Richard?
Yeah, good, thank you. Now, what I want to do today, we're going to have a little dig around you because you're a fascinating individual from your early education all the way up to where you are today. We're going to have a little chat regarding all the stuff that you've got up to. So first and foremost, I want to know, who is Tim?
Yeah, I'm Tim. I'm 45 years old, I think, 45, yeah. And yeah, I grew up down in Mousehole, so sort of moved down to Cornwall in my very early years. As I said, yeah, not quite local, but yeah, pretty much there. Yeah, moved down with my family, and like I said, I was aged 11 and grown up down in Cornwall since, yeah.
So your early years of education were not what I would call normal for most children. You were in a small school in North Devon with your dad as the head teacher.
Yeah.
What was that like?
Yeah, really interesting, if I'm honest, yeah. Not only was it a tiny school, so it was like 30 children, so very, very small, but my dad as the headmaster with one assistant, so it was like not only did you know the children all individually, my dad was the headmaster. Yeah, it was quite interesting that. Unfortunately, took retirement through ill health and moved down to Mousehole when I was 11, yeah.
Now, you moved down to Mousehole and you went to quite a large school. How did you settle into that?
Yeah, I think that was the biggest challenge for me in my education. I've been in a real cocoon, like in a small school with your dad as the headmaster, to being in a school with, over 2,000 pupils, lots of different teachers, and a completely different environment. And yeah, I really struggled with that, to be honest with you. So much so that I actually came out of that sort of mainstream education and was homeschooled for the remainder of my secondary education, yeah.
Going back to your time in primary with your dad as the head teacher, was it back then, so expectation was put on you to deliver because a parent-child relationship, there's a greater expectation that success needs to follow because you'll set an example for everybody else in the school?
Yeah, I think there was probably that expectation, but I think there was 2 things that could happen. You'd either rebel a little bit because you wanted your classmates to relate. It was, yeah. So not really bad because it was on primary school, but I was the class joker. If there was somebody a little bit who was going to interrupt class or something like that, it would be because that would gain me favour with my peers at the time, the other pupils, my mates. I'd actually... Yeah, I guess it was more about me keeping those guys on side, actually, if I look back on it, than being my teacher's pet, because that would have created a real divide between me and my friends.
Was it a challenge when you got home in the evening?
Yeah, sometimes, because it would be like, yeah, you need to toe the line a bit more, so yeah, help me out. So, yeah. Interestingly, it was always as well. It was weird to separate that. To me, he spent the majority of his day as Mr. Bardgett, not my dad. So it was.
Did you have to call him Mr. Bardgett?
In school, yeah.
How was that? How did that affect your relationship?
Yeah, it probably made it more formal. Do you know what I mean? It was I was really lucky. I look back now and think what children have the majority of their day. I was at primary school age with their parents. They don't. So I was extremely privileged from that point of view, and it was amazing to see him actually affecting other people. So he's doing an incredible job, and those early formative years in primary school are key to children, aren't they? So to see him if I think back now to working his magic in class was incredible to see. But yeah, definitely created an slightly odd dynamic between me and him until I was probably a little bit older, yeah.
And then you transitioned into what was from a very small school to a massive big school in that of Mounts Bay, and a great school that it is. Yeah. But to go from 30 children to 1,500, 2,000 children down there. Yeah. How did you find that? Obviously a bit of a struggle.
Yeah, it was. It was just, if I look back now, it's probably just a bit overwhelmed really with it in terms of, it was complete, not only tackling a little bit of my dad taking early retirement through ill health, didn't know anybody in the area. A lot of the children had come through the primary system, which I hadn't. I'd been in Devon. And then, the sort of friends group and friends circle was tough, And so much so that, I did actually refused to go to school effectively, and then ended up in the system of, in the home education system. I say I refused, it was just really tough. Yeah.
Did you have challenges with other children back at the day?
Yeah, I would have done.
Yeah. And then from there, you've got yourself hoisted into homeschooling. Was that dad teaching you again?
No,
or?
it wasn't. No, because unfortunately, like I said, because of his health, he wasn't able to do that. And I don't think it probably would have been the best idea
No.
anyway. So yeah, I mean, it's quite strange because although they call it homeschooling, you still actually have like a tutor where you go to them. You're not actually. Yeah, I wasn't actually tutored at home, but you see those guys on a regular basis, and they gave me lots of work and stuff to do, at home, and I was fairly sort of self-sufficient a little bit from that point of view.
So how do you think your education shaped you then going forward into the business environment?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I think I found I wasn't overly academic, and I didn't go down sort of the university sort of route, other than the University of Life, but which is an interesting one. But yeah, I guess it meant that when I did start my career, I had to start probably at some fairly basic roles and earn my way into my career progressing. Wasn't there through qualifications or education, if that makes sense. Yeah.
So where did your career start then? Because as I said, you've been in the sort of sales environment for some over 20 odd years, but where did your career start?
Yeah, so this is an interesting one. So after I'd finished sort of secondary education, I went to Duchy College in Stoke Clemsland, and I studied to become an outdoor pursuits instructor. So completely different to what I'm doing now, but studied to become outdoor pursuits, so climbing, kayaking, moorland walking, all that sort of stuff. And I was really into, and from mid-teens, mountain biking, and competed on a mountain bike circuit. So I was very competitive and sports-minded. And I saw a job advertised, and I can remember then the sort of strapline was, "Are you sports-minded?" That was on the job, on the advert, and I thought, yeah, I am, and I was looking for a job, so I applied. But it turned out to be a sales role. With an American insurance company. And
what was the connection to the sports then?
That was it. So they'd identified that somebody who was sports-minded, somebody who was into sports, traditionally was very competitive, and somebody who's traditionally competitive typically excels at sales because of that competitive nature. So there was no connection in reality. The actual job was selling insurance for an American insurance company, nothing to do with sport at all. But they honed in that basically, somebody who's competitive from a sports point of view typically makes a good salesperson.
Now, as I alluded to earlier on, you've got a big background in commercial growth through construction and business development, but that's not the be-all and end-all of what you've done, is it?
No, yes, I've done lots of different types of sales roles early in my sales career. As I mentioned just a minute ago, that sort of business to consumer type roles in insurance and telecoms and things like that. And I think some of that is the reason I do what I do today, because I've probably seen the less ethical side of sales and the hard yards in terms of some of those early sales. But then I've progressed during my sales career into working in the construction sector in about 2006. Sort of 20 years in that construction sector now, which is that business to business sort of environment, which is much more enjoyable, really, to be honest with you.
So let's roll into Sales Geek Cornwall, right? So you've got the jumper with the glasses. I have to check the glasses you're wearing are deliberate.
Yeah, they are. I need them to see you. Yeah.
Right, okay. With sales, let's go into this because this is something obviously I'm very passionate about. A lot of people don't consider sales as a career.
Yeah.
It's normally seen as, most people don't even say they're in sales. They're like, oh yeah, I work in business development, don't say sales. Almost like it's a dirty word.
Yeah.
Why do you think that?
I think some of that is, as I said, some of the unethical sales roles that are out there, and unfortunately some people that don't use their moral compass when they're in a sales role, and it can feel like you've been sold to. I guess some people have that experience, that whole when you walk out of a shop with something, or you agreed to sign up to something and you didn't realise that's not something you wanted to do, and you have like buyer's remorse. I guess lots of people have had that experience. And that's why there's that stigma, I think, around the traditional salespeople. So I think that's what that's linked to. And I think the pride in the role thing, Richard, that's something I think is really important to me, particularly. And prior to even launching Sales Geek, I've been working with the Institute of Sales Professionals, because I'd love to get sales to eventually be recognised as an actual profession and chartered, because it's the lifeblood of most businesses, right? I know we've spoken about this before, it's hugely important, and it should be seen as a profession, not as I'm in sales.
It's almost like one of those careers that you go, I wasn't qualified for anything else, so I thought I'd go into sales.
Yeah.
But actually, without that money coming into each businesses, no matter how good their offering is, if they haven't got somebody to open the doors and get it sold, it dries up, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a saying that it all starts with a sale somewhere, doesn't it? It all starts with a sale. So yeah, I think that is probably quite reflective of me in terms of I ended up falling into sales and thinking, oh, it would just be a bit of a stopgap. And here I am all these years later, launching Sales Geek Cornwall and doing it not just for my own business, but for many others in Cornwall, which is fascinating.
So what attributes would you say make a good salesperson?
Yeah, I think resilience is absolutely right up there for me in terms of it's hard in terms of sales. So yeah, resilience is up there. And then I think I've got like my own equation I lean on, which is attitude, energy, and attitude, effort, and enthusiasm, which is that's my default a lot, which I think you can overcome a huge amount of stuff if you approach it with the right attitude and with the right work ethic. I know you've spoken about grit before, Richard. I love that in terms of there's no substitute for hard work. And I think you see now online all these things that like growth hacks and these ways of, excelling your career or business very quickly, but actually hard work is right.
I often think that as quick as a business goes up in terms of hacks, it falls back down again. And I don't think you can ever replace strong foundations in anything that you do, which is going knocking on the doors. It's picking up the phone. It's doing the networking, the constant no rejections, and building up that thick skin that you talk about, resilience, that thick skin. Because I think in sales, there's a level of abuse that you get in sales as well, right? And that resilience is fine, but there's still people at the end of the day trying to do a job. Yeah. What do you do if you get a sales call come into your phone?
If I get a sales, I think everybody reacts the same, and I would react the same. It's what do they want? It's that instant reaction. Obviously, I understand their approach more than others, so I'll give them a bit of time and sometimes let them have a play before I let them know what I do. But yeah, I think sales, like I said, I recognise that it's at the lifeblood of everything that we do. Yeah, I recognise people that.
I think I'm a habit like you. I like to listen to the call because I think in sales, nothing's ever new, right? It's just spun slightly different.
Yeah.
And they have a slightly different opening or a different approach on the initial part of the call that I might go, actually, I thought that was really good.
Yeah.
But also I'm a little crazy for then go, no, that was really good. Can I give you some feedback?
Yeah.
And I give them feedback on calls as well. And they're like, no.
Yeah.
I think that's good. In your career, we talk about sales being a bit of a roller coaster. You get big highs and big lows in sales.
Yeah.
Have you ever experienced that?
Yeah, absolutely. I've been really lucky to work with some fantastic teams as my career kind of developed. I was from Redruth down in Cornwall doing some roles at one point which were national, looking after national sales and business development teams and things, which again came with its own challenges, but the highs
typically the A30.
Typically the A30, yeah, particularly coming back into Cornwall on a Friday afternoon, which was always a challenge, but yeah. Better now the new road's done, but yeah, I was doing national sales roles, working with some fabulous people and some fabulous teams, and to see those guys sometimes get recognition, whether it be as awards from their supply chain or us as a team recognised for some of the stuff that we've done by the supply chain. Yeah, recognition for myself and the team with the highs. Lows were different, really. I guess that my own personal lows sometimes when I haven't been performing within the sales role, tough because unfortunately you've got this law of attraction, right? So when things aren't going right, you tend to attract more negative versus when things are going really well and everything kind of comes at you. Yeah, it's been hard to dust myself off at times and keep going through those periods, but the highs have been incredible, mainly in and around when the people, actually seeing people that I'm working with, people that report into me excel. Yeah, I get a lot of reward from that, yeah.
I've seen a few people go in sales though. Let's talk about the lows, the serious lows, where they get absolutely down and depressed.
Yeah.
Is that something that's ever happened to you?
I'm kind of fairly lucky in terms of not getting that real kind of sort of depression low through sort of sales, but where it's been really tough in my early sales career, being in commission-only roles and things like that. I was a dad when I was very young. I was 19 when I was a dad. So, not only was I in those pressurised sales roles, it was like I need to put a roof over family's head and look after my family from a pretty young age. So that's probably where the resilience piece comes from within me. But yeah, it's really hard those times. times, and I think you've got to use all the sort of tools in your bag to try and get yourself out of that. But I'm a bit of a believer, I am a believer in that you can trade and you can work your way out of that with the right attitude. I do talk about the law of attraction a lot, and I think you've got to have the mindset's got to be right to trade through the tough times.
If someone's in that negative mindset, then what would you say to them? Because look, this isn't all about the rose-tinted glasses and that every day's sunny. There are some real challenges out there with people that struggle. What would you say to them as a bit of advice?
Yeah, I think communication is key. Absolutely, like talking with whether that be family, friends, or colleagues. I've forged over the years some fantastic work relationships. In fact, they've probably been they turn, don't they, from being a work relationship into a friendship. And some of those that I've got over the years have been incredible at those times. And I think talking things over makes a huge difference. You realise you're not on your own. It's tough for everybody at times in sales, and you realise also, even when you're talking them personally about private life and things like that, is stuff that's going on in the background. Everybody always has a life story and a challenge, right? It's not all rose-tinted glasses. I think that's one of the sort of misconceptions with me, because I'm quite bouncy and the sort of brand is quite fun and things like that, like you said, everything is easy, but it's not.
Have you got a front? Do you put a front on?
I don't use a front because it doesn't kind of drop. But I probably got you have a professional work persona versus your home persona. My other half laughs all the time because she said I'm very different in terms of my capabilities at home versus work.
What does she mean by that?
I just think she means that from a work point of view, I'm very focused, decision maker, take the bull by the horns, just crack on with it. But it's like at work, it's like, oh, shall I put this in the shed or not? What do you think about it? Asking all the questions. So I guess it's just, mainly in and around how I am at home versus work. But
How do you think your career shaped you as an individual?
It's been quite defining for me, I think, in terms of me as an individual, but I think that's part of where I've gone, if I was honest, gone wrong slightly, is that it's like we're conditioned to chase salary and title and car, and like I said, my career...
Well, that's sales, right? So in sales, it's about where your next pay packet's coming from, judged on the last 3 months of performance or even the last week of performance, depending on where you are. It's a very highly stressed environment, but your sense of reward is the money at the end of it. You go, that made it worthwhile because I've took home X amount of pounds that I can then go and have a holiday or drive a nice car. So that conditioning does happen.
It does, yeah. But I think for me, it did shape at one point, my career was a huge part of me as an individual. I was extremely focused on my career. And I guess it probably took, if I'm honest with you, COVID, which I know lots of people have been similar thing of that reset button over COVID. And so bearing in mind, pre-COVID, I was spending probably 3 to 4 nights away a week working away from home because I was doing these sort of national roles outside of Cornwall. And then COVID hit and we all spent lots of time working from home. I had sort of 18 months, I think, working from home, not furloughed, but working remotely with a team. And it made me realise that I had a better quality of life. One, I enjoyed being, as cheesy as it sounds, but like reconnecting with Cornwall. I was taking my daily 1 hour of exercise, or what we were allowed at the time, out on the bike in this fantastic county of ours, had time with the family. My relationship improved with my other half, and my relationship improved with like my children and stuff. So it made me question that whole, I'm packing my bag on a Sunday night, getting in my car and driving away for the week because this is what I'm supposed to do, which is what I was conditioned for. And it looked on paper, it looked great, but actually it wasn't absolutely best for me. So post-COVID, I took an active step back from like a sales director role I was in and did a short stint in procurement actually with a construction company in Cornwall, which was really interesting because I got to see the other side of the table from a buyer-seller position point of view.
Were you easy to be sold to?
Salespeople are the easiest to be sold to.
What did you buy? What was the purchase you thought to yourself, I shouldn't have bought that?
Yeah, it all needed buying because it was all for specific projects, but I guess there were times when I was probably, I enjoy the sort of salesperson buyer relationship. There were times when I definitely was probably easy to be sold to. Yeah.
Okay, I'll make a note of that.
Make a note, yeah.
And in terms of like looking back through COVID, so you talk about your relationships. What was it like then before COVID, like with home life? Because sales has a habit of making you get greedy.
Yeah.
And you talk about being conditioned. Let's go back to how did you uncondition yourself from being that person?
Yeah.
Was it just being locked in a house for 18 months or did you find some other techniques?
I think it was those conversations or realising what's actually really important to people. Like my other half isn't particularly materialistic. So actually, again, the whole me thinking, oh, I'll get a bigger house and a bigger car and a bigger holiday and a bigger this, bigger that, and growing into the space of like with my career. My other half just isn't particularly motivated by stuff like that. So that definitely makes a difference. We've been together a long time, so I should have known that before, really. But I think the point is, yeah, it hit me more because it was in COVID. It was that whole, actually, if I did have, what would we actually do? And it wasn't a bigger house. She didn't want a different car, etc. No. So it was like, well, what am I doing? Especially then with children. I guess if I looked at the age of my children, I probably realised a bit late, if I'm honest with you, because actually they are older now. My other half had to carry some pretty hard yards of doing all the school runs and all the stuff that you have to do on her, not on her own exactly, but I was away for quite a lot of it. So I reconditioned myself over COVID and realised that the title, the salary and all that sort of stuff that went with it wasn't the most important. Actually, thinking back to even what happened with my dad, he took early retirement in his mid-50s because of ill, and it was like, actually, I'm mid-40s, it's not a million miles away, I'm going to work myself into the ground for some larger corporate organisations, or do I want to change that? And so that was like my active step back. But yeah, I still remain working within the construction sector in kind of a sales and technical environment, but I'd come back from the sort of sales director role into something that was much more focused on quality time for me and the family and things like that. But something was niggling at me, and that was the fact I was kind of I'd taken a step back, taken the pressure off. But what I was good at was being a sales director and helping businesses grow and people grow in their sales environment.
So you've launched Sales Geek.
That's
Cornwall.
what led to it, yeah.
So here's your chance now. And a bit like me, actually, I got to 40, where I was 2 months away from 40, and I decided at this point, if I didn't do it, I never was going to do it.
Yeah.
And it was that something about setting up something for yourself.
Yeah.
Did you get the feeling that you just made a lot of people a lot of money, and it was about time that you probably tried doing something for yourself?
Yeah, so there was the background I just said about then of wanting to change the work-life balance thing, and what I'd always struggled with is trying to find, I'd got into a position where I was in a sales director position in the construction sector predominantly, and it's difficult to find those roles in Cornwall and Devon even. The minute you're working for a distributor or a manufacturer, which was like my area, they're all half of the UK or UK roles and things like that. So it was wanting to do something that was for myself, but also in my local business community. That's what was really important to me. I wanted to stop those 3 or 4 nights away a week. I wanted to be at home more. So what I was trying to look for was a role that I could utilise my skill set as a sales leader and sales director, but in the local business community. And it was hard to find that fit. So I guess Sales Geek is that whole, actually, it's the right fit, because the beauty of it is, I work on a part-time basis for various different businesses. So when they can't look at hiring a full-time sales director where I fit. So they get that quality skill set that I've got, 25 years of experience, but in their business for part of the time.
And what's it been like setting up a business in Cornwall?
I've really blown away by the support of other businesses and other people. I talked about my work community previously, and I now feel like I've got this amazing set of people that I'm forging relationships with in Cornwall, and some have been really pivotal in my success early on. So I think that's some of the thing that you need to, it's really important in Cornwall. And I launched on the soft launch on the 1st of October with a hard launch on the 9th of October at the Cornwall Business Show. So within sort of a week of launching, it was like a pretty busy expo. But that served me well. And that's that energy, effort, attitude and enthusiasm coming through from that first 9th of October onwards. I had some momentum behind it already, and it's gone from there. So I think I've been incredibly lucky to build a pretty nice community around us already. But that's what I think is so key in Cornwall with launching a business, is you can't do it on your own. I think that's the key for me.
Have you ever had those? Have you yet to have, or have you had those moments of the 3 o'clock sweats yet?
I think that was probably the bit that I missed. In terms of when I was considering leaving an employed role to starting my own thing, that was the bit that I didn't have on my pros and cons list, which the pros and cons list doesn't work really anyway, because
it's like a business plan and a cash flow. After tomorrow, it's all changed.
Yeah.
And your pros and cons list are the same. We spent hours writing them out. Yeah. In fact, I remember a sales close called the Benjamin Franklin close, which was all about pros and cons. And you write down all the pros and all the cons, and you try and get a close based on that. and then you realise that your pros become your cons, become your pros, and all of a sudden it's just one big pot of mess.
Yeah.
So
yeah, when I was looking at setting up Sales Geek, it was like I did do pretty much a pros and cons list, then put that in the bin, because if you looked at the pros and cons, it didn't seem to make sense on paper. It was kind of like, salary.
But you missed the 3 a.m. sweats.
Yeah, it wasn't on the list.
How much would that have weighted on your cons list, having been through it?
Having been through it, yeah. I don't think it would probably change my decision, number one. But yeah, the waking up early in the morning with those stupid sort of thoughts that I need to get this underway, or I forgot to start this, or I think it's mainly like the more ideas led with me, where my brain just kind of wakes up and I'm like, oh yeah, I need to do this. But yeah, early morning thoughts. And I guess in the early months, which I'm still in, it's like really nerve-wracking because you've gone, like I said, I've gone from earning a pretty good salary and stuff to being dependent on myself for income generation. And the fact is, you might not secure clients, right? You might not work with people. So yeah, it's scary, but you've got to get out your own way and back myself. And
I think that's a good bit of advice. Get out of your own way.
Yeah.
Also, get out of your head.
Yeah.
I think once if someone opened up your head right now, what would come out of it?
Yeah, what will come out? I actually don't know. I couldn't even tell you. It's too much of a mess. Yeah. I think getting out your own head is an important one as well, isn't it? Because we're our own worst critics and things as well. I think sometimes as well, reframing it with a little bit of what's the worst that can happen. So I took myself to that place early and just thought to myself, actually, what is the worst that can happen is that it doesn't work and I end up back in the jobs market. And would that be okay? And would I find myself back in a role? And yeah, I think I've got enough history in the roles that I've had within the construction sector that I feel pretty confident that I could do that if necessary. So I put that right at the front of, let's not have a plan B, actually, but know it's kind of packed up there if I did need it. And it's allowed me to just focus on doing the right thing, because I think, particularly when you're launching a new business, it's very easy to second guess everything all the time and think about what if, but actually what served me well is parking that up a little bit and cracking on a little bit with pace. I think we're seeing a lot, I don't know if you'd agree, Richard, but I think we're seeing a lot of people that are being particularly risk adverse at the moment, which I understand. It's tough trading conditions, but it is. So what we're seeing people is battening down the hatches and being a little bit more risk adverse. But I think actually, in a way at the moment, now's the time that you should do the opposite.
Look, I'm a firm believer, as demonstrated with my own organisation, that to get through tough times, you need to sell more. So we're on a bit of an employment drive at the minute for salespeople. Yeah. We've got 7 in the commercial team, as big as we've ever been. Yeah, a lot of business. And same with marketing. Sales and marketing, I think, go hand in hand. Yeah. And yet they're the two things that people seem to cut back on when things get tough.
Yeah.
It's absolutely bonkers.
Compounds the issue, doesn't it?
It does indeed. I've got quick fire questions for you.
Yeah.
What's the most interesting thing you've ever sold?
What's the most interesting thing I've ever sold? Because I've been in the construction industry.
Don't tell me breeze blocks.
Yeah, no, I was going to say it's quite hard actually, because none of that is particularly interesting. I guess years ago I used to be in the telecoms side of things, and I've sold some pretty nice bits of kit in terms from telecoms point of view.
Who's your icon?
Icon would probably be on a cycling point of view. So a fabulous cyclist called Nino Schurter, who's like a world champion mountain biker, but an incredible guy. Yeah. Okay,
let me reframe that then. Who's your biggest inspiration in business?
From a business point of view, I guess probably would be, I do like sort of some of the stuff like Stephen Bartlett's done and stuff like that sort of recently. I think that's incredible, some of the stuff that he does,
Okay. And finally, what makes you happy?
What makes me happy? Family, obviously, first, but also like being on my 2 wheels, on the mountain bike in Cornwall. There's nothing better than the sound of the gravel beneath the tyres,
What about coming off it?
Coming off it, I've done that more times than I wish to remember, but that hurts a little bit now as I get older.
So if people want to find out anything about Sales Geek Cornwall, come on, let's have a quick chat about that. So you guys, you're working on this plan now that you can go in, you parachute yourself into businesses, support them in a sales director role on a part-time basis. If someone out there needs that level of support, what can they do?
Just reach out to us. Like, I'm always on LinkedIn, easy place to find us, or a quick Google of Sales Geek Cornwall, you'll find us as well, or contact these guys. Obviously, you guys can point them in the right direction as well. But it should be easy enough to find. But effectively, what we do is, like you said, we're parachuted into businesses. We work on a fractional part-time basis. We're not sector specific, which is fascinating for me. So even though I've got 20 odd years in the construction sector, actually I'm working in education, tech, all sorts of different types of businesses now, which means it's really interesting for me, and I've got a varied skill set as well. Yeah.
And the very final one I have to ask, what's your next 90 days look like?
Next 90 days looks like, more client acquisition, I'm hoping, so working with some new clients. I love a speaker opportunity, so a bit like today, so those opportunities to talk to people and share the good stuff about sales, the ethical part of sales, those speaker opportunities. And then I've also got a holiday in there, actually, somewhere within the 90 days, off to Zante with my other
Lovely.
half, so yeah.
Look, absolutely fantastic. And thank you so much for coming along today and being part of Owners Off Script.
Thanks,
we
Ray.
wish you well. We'll get all the details up onto the socials and onto the systems. You can find out more how you get hold of Tim if you'd like to get any help and support. Tim, a gentleman and a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Cheers, Richard. Take care, thanks.
Owners Off Script. Real owners, real conversations. Supported by SalesGeek.